Hey everybody, today's video is about send effects in regards to music mixing. Send effects are an essential tool that we can use that can allow us to take multiple different audio tracks, send that audio content to an effects processing unit, and then allow that one effects unit to be applied to multiple different audio tracks instead of having to do individualized effects processes for each different audio track. So let's get into it, and I'll show you what I mean. A send effect is a method in which you can send audio from multiple channels to a single effects processor. Yeah, so I just kind of mentioned this, and really why would we want to do this? Well, some of the main reasons that we want to do this is to work more efficiently, to let multiple different audio sources sort of tap into the same effects processor for consistency reasons, and also to sort of lighten the load on our computer or our equipment, whatever the circumstance may be. One of the main effects that we use in this way is reverb. I like to use reverb as a send effect for a couple of reasons. One, reverb is a very CPU intensive process. All right, it takes a lot of effort on the part of the computer to, in real time, apply this reverberation tool to especially a large number of audio tracks. Now, of course, computer processors are constantly improving and digital audio workstations are able to handle lots and lots of stuff. But similarly, our sessions are getting much bigger and more complex. So it's still useful, or still at least consider using reverb as a send effect to sort of lighten the load and the processing power needed for your computer to do what it's doing. Now, reverb is just that natural sort of sound that we can apply to different sound sources that will give it the texture and feeling like it's coming from a specific acoustic place. Now, real reverb would be like an actual reverb chamber, or like a big hall, or like a church hall or room or something like that. And we would perform and record in that space so that all the different sound sources sound like they're coming from that space, right? And there's other kind of reverbs, plate and spring reverbs, and we don't need to get into the mechanics of those things. But instead of using physical reverbs like that, we're oftentimes using these digital tools or plugins that are allowing us to sort of, apply reverb in a virtual sort of way. And again, that's pretty intense on a computer to handle, especially if you're working with a large session of 40 or more tracks or something. You don't want to be running 40 different reverb channels also. So what we can do is, by using a send effect, we can place a reverb tool in our session, and then what we can do is just take all of the different audio tracks or audio signals that we want to have reverb applied to. We just send them over to the one reverb, and they're able to share and tap into that one reverb effects processor, as opposed to having one reverb process on each of the individual things. Another common way to use a send effect is delay. Delay on a guitar or some vocals, especially if you have lots of different vocals. Maybe you have multiple recordings of lead vocals, harmony vocals, backups, all that sort of stuff. It can be useful to have delay as a send effect, so then you can just use all the different audio tracks that you want, can tap into that one delay unit, and also share the same delay, but with the same parameters, right? With the same feedback, with the same delay length or echo, right? So as opposed to trying to match that up on multiple different delay units, this is giving us an opportunity to share one delay unit with multiple different audio tracks. Another way that we use send effects is parallel processing. So what we might do is we have an original uncompressed sound that we want to maintain. We want to keep the integrity of the original recording, right? Let's say it's an acoustic guitar. We want to keep the natural dynamics, the ebb and flow of the louds versus the soft parts, and we want to keep that. But we also want to beef it up a little bit by adding a second version of itself that is highly compressed that we can then feed into the original, just to give it a little bit more foundation. So parallel processing leaves the original recording alone, and then what we're able to do is send that original to a parallel location that we then apply heavy compression to and mix in with the original. Now, compression isn't the only thing that we can use here. It's oftentimes it's the main thing that is used in this parallel processing way, but it could be all sorts of things: equalization techniques, other harmonic processes like flange or a phase or something that modulates over time like that. But parallel processing basically just takes the original and leaves it alone, makes a copy of itself somehow, and applies different sort of processing tools there and mixes it in with the original. So that gives us parallel processing. So how exactly do send effects work? Some of these words are important to sort of grasp if it's the first time you've like kind of thought through the whole process. An auxiliary channel is a place audio does not actually live there. All right, it's just like a parallel space, sort of like an invisible channel that audio can be sent to, and audio processing tools can be placed there. Okay, so we might take an auxiliary channel and put a reverb on the auxiliary channel. And then what we do is we take the actual audio tracks that hold or contain the actual audio signals and content, and we send them on a bus, like this. I'm trying to visualize an actual yellow school bus. We send the original audio on a bus, which is like sort of an imaginary, invisible pathway that audio can take, to an auxiliary channel that has the effects process that we want, in this case, reverb. And then we decide how much reverb do we want to bring back and mix in with the original sound. So we are essentially creating a wet-dry knob that is going to allow us to, based on our determination, how much reverb we want to bring back to the original audio recording. We also use these things on a master channel. If you can think, well, I've got all of my audio tracks are being funneled into one master, and I've got the fader there for it, and I can raise it up and down, but maybe still at the very end, we really want to just give this audio track an overall boost. We can make a secondary master channel, send the original content there, and process it even further and mix it in with the original. So we can use these combinations of the auxiliary channels and busing and master channels to really dial in a mix and just make it more full, make it more unique, make it stand out above its competition and above all the other songs. So that's how send effects work. Oftentimes it's like we're using them as a method to share one effects process with multiple different audio signals to make our life easier, make our music mixing tasks more efficient, and overall have a better, more creative sound.